Greetings Phi Theta Kappa. My name is Rob Keel, and I'm here to share a little bit about things that can help you when you're applying for a job. My first tip is to assume nothing. You can never assume the hiring process at any given institution. You may not know who will read your information. You may not know the gender of the person you're addressing that email to. And you never know how many people will review your application. It's best to be inclusive when you're addressing information in a general and respectful way. Another way you can give yourself the edge is something I like to call signal boosting. Now, when you Google somebody, there's a whole lot of results that can pop up. And there are a lot of variables that weigh in into the order of how those things are prioritized. One of the variables is how often something is read or how popular it is. So, if you're in the news because your Phi Theta Kappa chapter did something and you're mentioned by name, share this article. By sharing this article and people reading this article, it can move up in the search results. So when that curious person on the search committee searches your name in Google, then the good things are at the top. Another tip is to make your resume reach far beyond just your education and your work history. You're a Phi Theta Kappa member, so you've had a chance to work on your hallmarks and develop in those areas. Leadership, scholarship, fellowship, and service all have a place on your resume. When you add to that technology skills, things like the ability to adapt to social media platforms or be able to use Excel to analyze data, those skills can take you far, especially if you're able to learn and adapt new technology. There's subject expertise. Maybe you have a special certification or a special set of skills, whether you're multilingual or there's something else that you've been certified in that might be an asset to this area. Make sure your resume isn't selling you short because it's not inclusive enough of the experience you have to bring to the table. In the digital age, the words you choose in your resume matter more and more. See, when a person was the only thing that was going to review your resume, they could look at the words that you choose and make some relations to the knowledge they had and maybe be able to dissect some of the information using the way the human mind works. Now, computers are involved. So on things like CareerBuilder, Indeed, or LinkedIn, often there are words taken from the job description that lets recruiters know when somebody has a high percentage of correlation between those words in their job description and the words that are on their profile or the resume they have uploaded into the site. Also, when people apply, those systems can be programmed to make the words that you have in your resume, especially if there's a high level between those and the job description that are the same, move to the top of a pile when it comes to the percentage rankings of how people correlate to the programmed in specifications. Another helpful hint is to be careful with acronyms. Now, even when it's in a very specific field, and most people within that field know an acronym, you never know if those are the only people that are going to be on the search committee. You want the people that are going to review your resume to be able to understand how this thing you added makes you more qualified for the specific job you applied for. So, when you write things like you were involved in an organization, and one I can give an example of is this organization I was part of called NIXLA. Now, the word NIXLA means something to some people, but it means nothing to others. Now, if I write out what each letter of that acronym means, National Inclusive Excellence Leadership Academy, people may not understand exactly what the organization is, but it does know it works towards leadership development and inclusive excellence. And those are phrases that people understand. The other thing is when you use acronyms, computers may not understand that that makes you qualified based on the words that have been programmed by a programmer. A programmer is not going to think to type in something like NIXLA because it's so obscure. But words like leadership, inclusion, excellence, Those might be words that are commonly programmed into almost all leadership roles at institutions. So when you're using acronyms, always make sure you spell out the acronym at some point in the resume. Another thing I think is important is to use evidence to prove that you meet the minimum and even the preferred qualifications. Now, many of you have worked on honors in action projects or college projects, and you know that you can know you did an amazing project, but you can't just write you did an amazing project. You've got to show the evidence when you write it up. So, just like that, when you're trying to prove that you meet a minimum qualification as an excellent project manager, or if you meet a preferred qualifications of lifelong learner willing to adapt to new ideas, then don't just say that you have those qualifications. Give the evidence in your resume. Show when you've been a project manager and that the outcomes of those projects were successful. The evidence speaks for you. If you decide to apply somewhere, take a little time to do some research. Often, it's very apparent when somebody applies to a job just to get out of another job or just because they need a job. When somebody really wants to work somewhere, it shows. And people want people that want to work where they work. It's good to work on having a diverse reference base. Now, sometimes you're just going to need people that are willing to be called and vouch for you. Other times, you might need letters of recommendation. It's always good to have a few of these, especially if you're applying to a specific career field that a letter can be tailored towards that field. But another thing I've noticed is that when reviewing applicants, if all three of the perspectives in written letters of reference are the same, it's hard to get a real feel for the person. If three of your teachers think you're an awesome student, then I know you're an awesome student. But if a teacher talks about how amazing you are as a scholar, and then a colleague that you worked with in another career talk about how much you were a team player and could lead when you needed to, and then if somebody you impacted in some way shared about the way that you were able to teach people new skills and empower them. See, I now know more about you as an entire employee that might fit into our organization for a long term. Being able to represent yourself in as many ways as possible helps reach different people that might review your application. If you make it to the interview phase, always prepare a couple of questions you might have about the company. It's often that at the end of a cycle of interviews, the person that is being interviewed will have a chance to share any questions they might have. Questions might come up during the interview and you might be inspired to something new, but it always helps to have something prepared in case you can think of nothing else in that moment and the opportunity is presented to you. Finally, I want to share something that people might not think about enough. The fact is, the application process for your next job has already started. In the past, it might have been enough to be intelligent or to be talented. Today, more and more relationships are the key to your next phase of your life. So, think of each person you meet, whether it's at a conference or at your school, as an opportunity to connect and build your network of people. Through that network, you're going to find a lot of opportunities, and one of them might just be your next career.